Howdy doody! Welcome back to the ranch. My name is Mick. This behind me, a vintage 16-ton draught excavator powered by a big old Detroit diesel engine. Unfortunately for this girl, she was abandoned in the woods, God only knows how many years or decades ago, and it's been sitting here rotting away ever since. Today, I am making it my mission for you and I to see this thing run for the first time since it was left here to rot. There is only one serious problem. You see, the woods, it's completely haunted. And unfortunately for me, I am not leaving here until it's running. So if that means setting up a tent and camping in the haunted woods, that's what I'm gonna do. Let's get started. Oh no. Oh no. That is water. Yep, there's a mouse house. It's about 3 in the morning. I heard something walking. I'm tired. So obviously there's a lot to unpack here. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Consider subscribing. We do stuff like this primarily, working on old diesel equipment as well as classic cars or trucks. So this track hoe in essence is right up my alley. However, like I said, there's a lot to unpack here. So let's start with the basics. We are working on a 1980 draught track hoe that again is powered by a Detroit engine. I believe it's a 471. I don't know anything about Detroits, but we'll get into more of that later. I have two real motivations for buying this piece of equipment. One, I found her on the old marketplace and it was really cheap. It was priced basically at scrap value. From what the owner was telling me, the majority of the people that were coming out to look at this thing that were serious buyers were only willing to buy it to undercut the scrap value, cut it up, and take it for scrap. There was really no one coming out to save this thing per se, and that is where I come in. I would like to bring this back to the ranch, use it as a here and there type of machine. However, this isn't going to be a production machine ever again. I don't have it in my sights to restore this thing, although depending on what we find out today, that could change. But from what I am looking at, this thing is pretty rough. It has definitely been sitting here for quite some time. From what I can see, the boom looks to be in good shape, but basically every hydraulic hose looks like that. They are in terrible shape. It looks like the stick may have been repaired at one point in time, and from what I am seeing, every pin and bushing is completely clapped out. Not to mention the big gaping hole in the bucket, which, you know, all of these things are repairable for sure, but what I am really after with this thing is to get it quasi-functional, bring it back to the ranch, and just have this as a vintage machine that I can fire up and use from time to time for hobbyist type stuff. And you never know. I mean, this thing might be worth its weight in gold. If it's operating correctly, this could lift some really heavy stuff or dig some really deep holes. And I would definitely find a use for that back at my place. So with that said, what do we have? Like I said, 1980 draught 40. It's about a 16-ton machine. Again, perfect for me because I have the... There's gonna be more of that today. Hearing strange noises and wondering what's going on. I have the means of hauling this home, so I don't have to pay somebody to haul it home. I can put it on my tractor and trailer and bring it home. So another big plus. If you are not familiar with the name draught, they are no longer here, but back in the day, as you could see by this tag, Drott was owned by Case, so it's kind of right in my wheelhouse. I'm a big international / Case fan. I don't necessarily need to have all my equipment be related to Case or International Harvester in some sort of way, but it is nice that this thing is quasi-related. So the important part, let's get this door open, which is already open. Okay, let's take a look inside the engine bay. See what we're working with here. Crawl myself up in here. All right, so right off the rip, we got a panel sitting over the engine with the muffler sitting on it. So exhaust is off. We're using that to cover up the exhaust. Maybe there's a hole in it. Not sure. So here you go. This is what I believe is a Detroit 471. Again, I don't know anything about Detroits. Never worked on one before. From what I know, you can tell the difference between the newer and older style. The newer being the 71 series by these little spinny knobs here for the valve cover, whereas the series before these had bolts around the valve cover to get the valve cover off. And then by looking at my exhaust manifold here, I have a 4-cylinder, so hence 471. In other words, you can tell that it's a 471 by the way that it is. Just real quick, while I'm up here and I have my eye on everything, I just want to take a peek at what looks to be my hydraulic tank, see what's in there, my diesel tank over there, see what's going on under that rat's nest full of rags. Just get a general idea of the condition of everything, and then we'll jump into looking at the meat and potatoes. We'll start working on the Detroit here. So first and foremost, since it's right in my face, that looks mostly empty. Sure is. Oh, you know what? I think that's water down there. So that's not good, but the tank itself doesn't look terrible. Of course, that doesn't really matter yet. This thing has to run before we can even begin to focus on hydraulics. So it looks like I got these rags here. I'm gonna guess that there's a blown out line. Mousies have definitely been in here. And yeah, there it is. Good news is, she's short. That's all there is to that one right there. But bad news is, I'm gonna guess that if that's my only blown out line on the machine, the others are not far behind. So we'll just cover that thing back up for now. Hopefully find a better way to do that here, so I'm not dealing with those nasty rags. Coming over here and visiting my diesel tank. Let's see. Well, first impression, judging by all the jugs of oil, I'm gonna say she uses a bit. Let's see if we got any fuel in here. Now, I don't know if you can see when I'm doing this. It looks like the tank is basically empty. It looks kind of gunky, but also not the worst. I haven't figured out, get this plant out of here. I haven't figured out if I want to run this tank or run an auxiliary tank. I brought an auxiliary tank, but to be honest, I would much rather just run the original and just swap out filters as needed. Yeah, I'd rather just use the stock plumbing and everything like that. Again, if this thing is ever going to be a functional machine, I'm going to have an actual fuel tank on it. I'm hoping to just kind of flush this one out a little bit and see if we can make it work. Also, again, just, you know, scanning my eyes on everything that I'm seeing here as I'm up here. You're seeing it for the first time just like I am. There are a lot. Oh, that one's full. A lot starting fluid cans. Not sure what to think of that. All signs, including the vintage Genesee beer can, all signs point to nothing good. Alas, we move forward. Let's see if this thing's good. Looks good to me. All right, so real quick, order of business here. I'm gonna turn my attention to the engine. Our main focus today is to get that thing running. So in order to do that, I gotta head back to the truck. Again, I'm deep in the woods here, so unfortunately, I have all my tools in the truck that I feel like I'm going to need for the day. I'm not gonna bring them back here until I know I need them because it's a haul. And I got some heavy stuff. Batteries, jugs of fuel, and hammers and pry bars. I got my stuff with me, so it's a long walk up and over roots and pieces of steel in the way. So I want to minimize my travel to and fro. I'm gonna grab some tools that I think I'm gonna need. I would like to take a minute to just clear out the engine bay, get that ready for me to work inside of it. You know, I got to get those panels off the top, get the miscellaneous garbage and junk out of there, verify a couple things with the engine, check the oil, make sure it's rotating. Fuel situation we already looked at could be usable or not, we will see. And then we got to verify wiring because I did bring batteries with me, but I don't know what kind of situation we're dealing with starter switch in the cab. Do I even have battery cables back there? First and foremost, I'm gonna schlep it over to the truck. Let's grab some tools that I think I'm gonna need. That looks like a filter housing. I'm hoping I don't need that. Let's see. There's definitely a space for 2 batteries. I got 2 battery tie downs. It looks like, okay, good, I got the right cables here. That's the style that I brought. God, those look tiny though.
That's what she said.
I might be vice gripping it anyway. All right, what am I doing about this? I'm just throwing this down for now into my garbage pile. I'm not leaving that there, by the way. That's just temporary. I might just take it off and plug it. So, as I mentioned earlier, there were 2 things that I felt you guys would probably be questioning at this point in time. And I mentioned one of them being why I purchased this machine. The other one, as stated in the title, and I'm sure is a reason why if you're a stranger you clicked this video, is the fact that this machine is abandoned in a haunted forest. You're probably asking yourself, what kind of proof do you have? And we can get further into that later tonight, but in essence, when I say this place is haunted, I mean a multitude of things. The main being, I'm not in a good area. Quite frankly, I'm a little bit nervous because where my truck is parked is on a main road, and I don't have any way of keeping my eye on it, which really worries me. I have a lot of valuable things in there, mostly regarding, you know, like my tools. The other thing is, if you'll notice, you know, I keep saying that these are woods, you know, there are a lot of trees around and it's kind of in the middle of nowhere, but I believe just by context clues, there's a railroad right next door. So I'm thinking that this is more so like an abandoned railroad storage yard per se. There's a lot of old junk railroad equipment that looks like it predates the, we'll say 80s. I mean, everything kind of looks like it's from the 50s to 80s era. There is one thing in particular that, ooh, There is one thing in particular that's a little creepy, and it points more towards the haunted aspect of things, but we're not going to get into that until the sun's going down. But just so you know where my mind is at the time being, I'm just looking to protect myself. So I came prepared. You'll probably notice something, you know, along my lower backside that gives some context clue. And yes, I am talking about my dump truck that I don't really have, but you get the idea. Anyway, let's get this panel off. I want to get my eyes on this engine. I'm already seeing something that is screaming at me as to why the exhaust was taken off. So let's take a look once I get this off. Oh, there's a Detroit, baby. You're not looking at it right now, but I am. Oh, radiator does not look in good shape at all. At all. All right, get in here, take a look. This is your 471 Detroit diesel engine, and boy, does she not look to be in great shape. But we still got some blue paint left over. That's got to count for something, right? So I'm noticing a couple things right off the bat. First and foremost being this gaping hole in what looks to be like some sort of breather. So I'm gonna soak that down because we're definitely taking that off. We're also taking these off. Quite obviously why they had the exhaust panel off and sitting on top. I don't know when they caught that. I'm hoping that we didn't get a bunch of water intrusion. That would suck. Oh no. The other thing I'm noticing is the radiator. It is in poor shape. There's a lot of gunk going on. I don't know if that's because the fan is flinging oil everywhere from the engine, which is why there's a bunch of oil jugs everywhere. Maybe it's not using oil, but rather leaking oil. I'm noticing a wire off my starter. That's not a great sign. Oh, and a bolt missing. Another bad sign. Okay. Let's take a look into our radiator cap here. I know I'm kind of going backwards. I just haven't made it to the dipstick yet. There's green juice in there. That's good. It's kind of crusty, but at least we got juice. Oh, there we go. Okay, so that's engine oil fill, and there's a dipstick down there. So let me weasel my way down there, see what I see. Looks like we're a little low, and there might be some water in there. Tough to tell. If there is water in there, there can't be much because it's not over full. It's actually a little under full. Not low by any means, but not full, so that's fine. I'll take it. I'll try grabbing the fan just to see, but with all the compression from this thing, it probably wouldn't be good if I can turn it by the fan. But I see a crank bolt down there that I could throw a wrench on. We'll see if we could turn it over by hand first. Let's see. Yeah, no, the fan's just gonna turn without turning the belt. Let me grab a wrench and I'll meet you down below. So here we are from the underside. There's the bottom of your oil pan. Here's the remnants of my positive cable to the starter that I was noticing was off, probably for good reason there. My crank bolt is right there, so I'm gonna throw the biggest wrench that I have in my bag with me. I do have a cheater bar, but that's back at the truck, so see if I can get it with this first. I'll grab my cheater bar, but man, that thing felt really tight. Oh, she's free. Woo! Yeah, just a little tight. Yeah, she's free. Okay. I'm gonna take a minute and just rotate this thing, and then we'll see if we can start dealing with this debacle of a starter. Man, she is tight. All right, that's a negative on getting that thing to spin 360 degrees. I can't get it without the cheater bar, and I don't have enough space in between here and here to grab onto the nut to get the cheater bar in there, you know? So while I'm down here, let's go look at these battery leads and see what we're going to do. Oh, another can of starting fluid. Imagine that. Now you get to see the business end of the Detroit here. That's the blower behind me. So essentially, there's two gears in here, like turbine gears, I don't know what you'd call them, and they spin together and throw air into the engine. Kind of acts as a supercharger. Classic Detroit thing that I know nothing about. But I know that much. And I believe that this flapper here you can pull to shut off air to the system, but that looks awfully stuck, so I'll probably try getting that freed up before I try starting the engine. But now I'm calling my game way too ahead of time. Here's our existing battery in here and our two leads. I gotta figure out which one's my positive. I brought battery leads with me. I could make one up real quick, or I could just salvage what's left of this one and just kind of get the battery closer and vice grip it together. I think I'm gonna verify that this starter actually works and the engine turns over before I sacrifice a good 6 feet of battery cable. That stuff's expensive. So let me fiddle around with what I got here and I'll let you know what the plan is when I have one. All right, I got updates. Nothing really good. I noticed a couple things while I was down there. First and foremost, this positive cable that's cut off here runs up through there and pops out short, actually. Reach my hand under here, right here. And it has a bolted connection like the old battery that I took out, okay? But then there's these up here, and digging around in my 4 inches of gunk, I discovered that these are both ground cables. So I don't necessarily know what that means, if it's a 12-volt system with 2 batteries. I have a dump truck that's set up that way, or if it's somehow a 24-volt system, but you wouldn't need a double ground connection like this. One thing that I know for sure is that whatever this is, it's not gonna work for my situation. I think for starters, I might just, I think for starters, I might just throw my jump pack at it and see if I can get it to spin over. And then once I verify that, I can start looking at running battery cables. The other thing that I figured out was basically I went in the cab, and every pole style cable that runs out here, so like we were looking at the blower here, everything's seized up. So I'm starting to, actually this is already, see that's already moving, but I still need to get the cable moving. The other one is actually up here, and I believe that's my throttle control. I think this is my fuel in, and it goes up this rail. I got some troubleshooting to do there. The last thing that I noticed is my fuel line actually runs under the tank here, and I do in fact have a water separator right there, so we can see what our fuel situation is from there, and then chase our lines, which are right in front of my face here. And these run to a series of filters. Okay, so there's that one up there, and then it runs down. Looks like the inlet side of my fuel pump is here, and then it runs up that way. I believe, I'm just speculating at this point. I'm just trying to learn everything that I can while I can, because I'd rather spend the least amount of time down here as possible. I'm still not ruling anything out at this point, so let's go grab my jump pack. This is just a regular GM starter. Just like a regular car too. So this is our main starter motor. This is our negative post, which kind of unfortunate. I'm missing a nut here. And then up on the solenoid, this is our positive post here, and then we got to jump terminals to our hot lead, and then this thing should spin over. I'm just gonna hook this into 24 volt because I think this jump pack's gonna struggle to get this thing to turn over as it is. So we'll just hook that right there, get our positive. I think this is the right terminal. So we should just have to jump those 2 terminals, and hopefully we see this thing spin over. Nothing yet. Well, either our starter's stuck, or we know the engine turns over, so either the starter's stuck or the jump pack just doesn't have enough juice to get her going. I'm gonna vote for the latter. So I'm gonna take some time, and this is gonna take some time to jerry-rig my batteries up to connecting into the starter here. I don't have jumper cables or an extra nut to put on that negative post, so I'm not exactly sure how I'm gonna do this, but I'm gonna mess around with this for a while, and then we'll go from there. Plan of attack, I need to find an extra nut and rob it off of somewhere so I can use it as my extra starter bolt. Side quest achieved. Here's that existing battery cable. To be honest, I might use this for my ground. I'll have to drill it out so it'll fit, but I think at this point, that's my best option. Well, I really just put myself in a pickle here. As you can see, I foresaw this being an issue just from guessing, you know, what things I would have to replace. Battery cables are typically on that list. So I brought terminals, I brought solder. For some reason, and this is something that I bring to every job because you always need heat, I forgot my torch. I don't know how. I knew it was in my toolbox, and it was on my list of things to bring, and I forgot it. So again, I just put myself in a pickle here. I'm gonna try and just get away with vice grip attachments for every attachment, but I might run out of vice grips for the amount of clamping I have to do. Big unfortunate. But for the time being, I'm just going to see if I have enough vice grips to make this happen. And if I don't, we'll deal with it when we get there. I'm smelling dead mouse, and I don't quite like the smell of dead mouse. I don't know about you. God, Lord. Battery died, but I got these plopped in. Negative's gonna go here. Jumper cable's gonna go here. And then all I gotta do is get my positive hooked up. Progress, slow progress, but progress nonetheless. Let's keep moving. All right, we are finally hooked up. Let's see if this thing will go. And if it doesn't, I'm not sure what to say. We may have a bad starter. Let's see. Angry connections. I gotta tighten that. All right, let's see what we think about that. Come on, baby. Woo! Oh, and we got smoke coming out immediately. That means we got fuel, which is a dangerous situation, because if you know anything about these, you know that the injectors like to get stuck wide open, and that's basically the only thing that anyone knows about a Detroit engine, is if they sit, injectors stick. Whew. So I'm glad that didn't fire up, but man, it sure did look like it had fuel, didn't it? All right, now that we got this thing turning over, we need to turn our attention to fuel before we get too carried away. So let's unhook the battery, reach down and pull whatever just popped out of here. Oh yeah, the good stuff. Time to get this thing off of here. Oh, I didn't even think about, these are probably seized up. I probably need my pliers. Dang it. one. Got the other. Yeah, everything on this tractor is just so seized up. It's been sitting here for a long time. Now normally I would take some compressed air and really blow this valve cover off. Unfortunately, I don't have that luxury here, so I'm just gonna try and be kind of careful. Okay. I got so much crap right here. This is gonna be a mess. There we go. And I sure did drop a lot of stuff in there. Okay, we've definitely had water intrusion, but I've seen worse. There is no way in heck our injectors are not going to be stuck. All right, let's get started on this. This is definitely stuck. I mean, I guess I'll try real quick to get this rack to spin, but essentially I should be able to throw my vice grips on here and get these plungers to move in and out, which they are certainly not. So I need to just really soak everything down in here. Yeah. Tell you what, not a bad little spot to sit.
I want to say sit on it.
Yes! Now we got to take off all these fuel lines so we can take these bolts out and flip the whole rack, and then we'll be able to get to our little plungers here. Take a little hammer, tap on them, and loosen them up. I mean, I could, again, these are things that I could try, like I could try sneaking this in here, but I'm just gonna break something, so better safe than sorry. Let's get all these fuel lines off, and then we'll go from there. Dang, do I wish I knew what I was looking at. Little PB blaster never hurt nothing. I've got movement here, but I still don't have movement here. And I'm not sure why, if that's related to up here or down there, but it's definitely supposed to be moving, and it ain't. Starting to get movement here. I'm not sure what my culprit was, but all I'm doing is just doing a little prying here slowly, and then I'm jumping up here and prying this way, and there's a lot of resistance, but I can tell it's freeing up. So I'm just gonna make sure to go slow, taking my PB and just making sure everything's real nice and lubricated as I'm doing this. Once this is all freed up, or I break something, I'll let you know. Check it out. It looks free, right? The problem is I found my sticky one. It's this one right here. When I take my hammer and beat this down, Oh, never mind. I guess I freed it up. This was sticking down, so now it's got spring to it. I would hammer it down, then I had to pry it up. They're all free now. They're all nice and loose. I can go ahead and put this all back together. I'm gonna keep working a little bit more on my levers here because they're still pretty stuck here, and that'll give me control up in the cab. We're not to that point yet, but while I'm here, I got everything open. I'm just gonna keep, you know, loosening everything up. From there, we should be good to focus on the fuel tank. I'm starting to get to the point where I'm losing daylight. I'm getting hungry. At some point, I'm gonna put a flag up for the day. I still gotta make my tent for the night. I'd say by early tomorrow morning, we're gonna be throwing some ether at this thing with a fuel system in place, seeing if it'll run. All right, that is that. It took a long time to get everything freed up that I needed to get freed up. I think I'm to the point where I have everything now where, you know, I have full control from where I'm sitting as far as adjusting fuel, but there was a lot of mechanical joints here that needed freed up. Shutdown levers and fuel levers and mechanical whatnots and doodads. So I think I'm to the point now where if I'm sitting where I'm at, I can have access to my intake here for a little bit of ether. I got access to all my levers for, you know, fuel up, fuel down, shut down, which I have no idea what's what. So I'm going to leave the valve cover off and just do it like I'm sitting right here, which, by the way, sitting right here has been quite nice. I don't think there's many situations where you're able to just plop your butt down and work on a fuel system like this. So I'm going to be grateful for what I got. Also, I haven't fell off, which has been great. So I am to the point now where the sun's starting to go down. I am starving. I've made a complete mess of this place. So I'm going to clean everything up, get everything consolidated, ready for tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to be hitting it hard on fuel system, but that's really all we have left to do is just getting that fuel tank ready, getting fuel to my fuel rack here. Hopefully we'll be able to get this thing running nice and early so we can wake up the neighbors when this thing starts screaming without a muffler on it. I'll get back to you guys when I'm setting up camp. Okay. Can you see me? Night fell quick. Unfortunately, I was trying to charge up my GoPro batteries and my phone, so I stopped to Mickey D's. Half an hour went by and all of a sudden it was pitch black out. So here's the plan. I got a tent and a sleeping bag and a pillow. Forgot a pillowcase. That's cool. Conveniently, this is a mound of sand, actually. So quite soft up here and elevated. I'm working on battery powered lights right now. I got a nice flat surface. This is where I'm going to set up camp for the night. I just need to pop this tent out and see if I can throw it together real quick. I'll check back in when I have that squared away. Couldn't tell you the last time I pitched a tent, so. I mean, started at 8:30. It's 8:45. That was easy. I cut some corners, sure. I didn't stake down the corners because, as you can see, it's a quite peaceful evening here for now. I'm gonna get into my sweats, park my truck in a spot that isn't so telling that I'm in the woods. And I think I got a little bit of a McFlurry left, so I'm gonna grab that too. I'll meet you back here. Now that I am to this point, I'm gonna sit here and enjoy the rest of my McFlurry while we talk about the haunted woods. Because now I'm in it. Like I mentioned before, I don't really think that the woods are haunted per se, but they are creeping me out. There's a full haunted house right across the street from where I'm at, and it's like a haunted warehouse. Unfortunately, I can't show you guys because the property owner wants this place to be anonymous, you know, as far as the location, which I understand. They play the haunted house music, like the creepy music, year round, all day, all night. That, along with not knowing what is outside of my tent right now, with it being pitch black, I will say, it's a little creepy. But like I mentioned before, my biggest fears at this point, the safety of my tools. At this point, now that it's dark out, the safety of myself.
That's why I always try to pack a gun. It's just a little bit, pack some heat.
I think I've used that meme now twice or maybe 3 times in this video by now. I really got to work on my originality. But as of right now, I'm going to finish my McFlurry, tuck myself into bed so I can get up bright and early in the morning, probably run and grab a coffee, which I'm already dreaming about. And then we'll jump back on the machine and get that thing running. I'm excited. All right. Good night. We'll see you in the morning. It's about 3 in the morning. I heard something walking, but I think it might have been a deer. I don't see anything, so I'm not gonna stress about it. Just try and go back to bed. I'm tired. In other news, the tent's doing good. Sleeping on the sand really isn't all that bad. I'm gonna get back in this thing. It'll be alright. I'll be alright. Good morning. It is, what do we got? 6:25. My alarm is going off in 5 minutes. That's alright. My back hurts, but that's alright. We got a big day. I slept okay for the most part, except the deer at 3, that sucked. I wish I got to see the deer, if it was a deer. And then the tree that's behind me kept dropping these big leaves. And when one would really hit the tent, it would kind of startle me because I would think that something was like rubbing up against the tent. But regardless, we made it through the night. There's the culprit. That tree right there is dropping every freaking leaf. Chilly morning, but it looks like we're gonna have a beautiful sunrise back there. Machine's still here. I know it's still pretty dark out, so you probably can't see much, but I'm gonna get moving, find a gas station, grab some coffee, dunk my head in the sink, then we'll get moving. Morning! So we made it through the night. No problems. It was a little uncomfy, and you know, I was a little on edge, but we made it through. Happy to be back for another day. We have a beautiful day to be working on this thing. What do we have to do? Well, like we were talking about, we're focusing on the fuel system today. The tank looks a little rough, but we did see that there's a fuel water separator down underneath the right side track here. So let's crack that thing open, see what we see. Hopefully it's clean fuel. Wishful thinking, but worst case we could take the drain plug off and actually drain what's in there, maybe throw in a little bit of fuel to flush whatever gunk is in there out and still use the stock tank. That would be great. That's essentially what I'm hoping for here. So enough jabbering about it. Let's jump underneath this thing and see what we see. All right, so I'm gonna squeeze myself in here. Here's our fuel water separator here, so I should be able to crack that loose. I'm also noticing this is the other end of the line up there that was cut off. So this means nothing. I have one of these, whichever one's lower, which is probably this one, is my fuel in, and then this is my fuel return, or vice versa. But let's twist this thing open. I got PB Blaster over here. I got my wrench. Oh. Loose. Oh, that's not doing anything. If I'm going straight for drain plug here, this is probably going to be a mess. And man, I am really cramped in here. Oh yeah, okay, much better over here. Still not guaranteeing anything. This is gonna be a mess. I'm hoping I can just get this to just crack loose and see if I can get water out of it. Oh, there's water. See that dripping? Can I get greedy? that's the end of my threads there. I'm unsure of what to do. I feel like I really just want to pull this and drain the thing in its entirety. But I also could be patient and sit here for a second and see if the water ends up turning into fuel, because that's a possibility. But me being me and being a glutton for punishment, I think I'm gonna go ahead and pull this thing. And once it really gets out of hand or my jug starts filling up, shove her back in and hope for the best. Okay, that is water. No, that's what this not okay. I might need to grab a pick to shove up there, because I bet you that's not the end of it. That's probably just clogged up. Oh, okay. That's diesel. Shoot, where's my plug? Yeah. Okay, that was fuel, so that's good. I got more in there. Is it just clogged up? Ah. I think that's probably it. I mean, and I will say I didn't see chunks coming out. There were some, obviously, because there was some stuff holding it up. Just to be sure, I might throw my brake clean nozzle in here and just spray up and see if anything else decides to fall out. And then I'm thinking we're good to go. I think that's it. It sounded like it was passing right through, and it wasn't spraying back at myself, you know? Let's not cross thread this plug. That would be so unfortunate. All right, that's back together. Let's throw some fuel in here. Hopefully it doesn't just leak right back out. And then let's see when we crank it over if we get fuel up top. This is gonna be an awkward spot to fill this up. I can hear it hitting the bottom of the tank, so it's definitely empty. Now I'm not gonna do all 10 gallon. Actually, I'll probably stop here in a second to see if I'm leaking out of the bottom. That would be bogus, but assuming I'm not, I'm gonna put this 5 gallons in, and then we can start cranking it over, see what we got. It's all right to me. Keep filling her up. But that'll do for now. Let's get ready to crank this thing over. All right, we're getting real close here. Just a couple precautionary measures. I wanna get this boot off so I can have this within arm's reach. I got an old sweater that was in the machine just in case, because I'm not sure what way my shutoff lever, there's 2 shutoff levers here. Fuel shutoff, which is what I'm reaching for right now, that's up top. And then at the blower, I think there's an emergency shutoff, like a flapper. And neither one of those pull cords work in the cab. I've tried everything to beat them around and get them freed up, but they're not going. So I'm just assuming I have them both in the run position at this time. I'm gonna throw a vice grip on my fuel control, but I'm also gonna have the valve cover off so I could just grab the rack by hand. But first and foremost, let's get this boot off. And that's on the ground. I broke it. That's how it goes. That was full of crap anyway. To be honest, I should poke my head in there and look to see if I see anything, which I don't. That's good. I'll tell you what, if this thing does start up, this exhaust is gonna blow a bunch of crap in my face. Get my vice grip back on my, I think this is my throttle here. Maybe this is my shutoff and this is my fuel. I can't tell. Well, I think where I got it, I got control of it because the rack is free in this position, and in that position, it's not, it's jammed up. So I think that's where I'm gonna leave it. It could be on full throttle right now, I don't know. with that said, I'm gonna grab my used bottle of ether here, put my face right next to this exhaust, which will be great. Before I spray anything, let's just verify this is gonna turn over for us. Which it is. Let's give it some ether, see what happens. Let's try throttle the other way. It does seem like we still have fuel. Tough two-handed job here. Oh, there's a mouse house. Nice. So we're moving in the right direction. It's acting like it wants to go. I might be struggling with battery already. I also have something smoking down there and it looks like a ground. All right, I got some checking out to do. So if you're familiar with how we do things around here, you'll know that I never got batteries. I never got good batteries. That is the challenge that I'm running into now. If you could tell, I'm a little winded because I had one extra battery sitting in the bed of my truck. Just schlepped it over here because my jump pack's dead and these batteries aren't great. So I swapped one out, the worser of the two. I'm hoping I can just get this thing going long enough to feed it with ether to keep it going to see if I have fuel pressure. That's the only thing that I'm trying to do right now is just verify that I have a fuel pump in this thing. Hopefully that battery will last me long enough for the short term that I need it. Woo! Sounded like it might have been full throttle. That also was strictly ether. Let's try again. That's definitely just ether. I am going to crack one of my lines up here and see if I start to get fuel up to my lines. But for now, let's just shut her down, regroup. Also, in other news, my alternator should be hooked up to that battery, so if I do get it running, it should be charging the batteries. Come on, baby. All right, note to self, the fan's right here. Don't let it hit you in the leg like I just did. Luckily, I got pants on. Dang it. That's all I'm getting out of these batteries. I better start hunting around because if I can't find a battery, I am SOL. I can't go home and charge these things or I'm in trouble. All right, so a couple things. Walmart has a Group 31 battery in stock. It's a top post that has like a threaded connection style, like that one, like the one that came out of this. I can deal with that. I have adapters for the post style. And while I was down here, I noticed one thing in particular. I got fuel here, and that is my return line. So I should be operating correctly internally because I'm getting fuel return. So that's a plus. The downside is I'm leaking, so I'm gonna cut that shorter and reclamp it so I don't leak anymore. I did go ahead and I took my fuel inlet off right there, and there was fuel there as well. So I'm hopeful that if I just keep cranking this thing over and nursing it with ether, I should be able to get it to run. I'm gonna tighten this up, run to Walmart real quick, grab a battery, and hopefully I should be good to go from there. All right, so here's where I'm at before I start cranking on this thing again. I loosened up this filter, which is the inlet from the fuel tank itself, and that is full. I started loosening it and I got fuel out. This one I'm loosening up and I have this cracked loose and I think that's dry. So that could mean one of two things. Either fuel hasn't made it there yet or I'm not pumping at all, which would be a big problem. So what I'm gonna do is take that housing off and pre-fill it with diesel so I know it's full, and then I might crack the inlet line from the fuel pump and see while I'm turning it over if I'm starting to pump fuel in. Somehow weasel this one back in. Filter started. Here's to hoping that my gasket is still in place. I'll find out real quick if we're pumping fuel, if my gasket isn't seated correctly. Okay, the other thing that I'm gonna do, I have these bleeder screws up here, so I'm gonna crack those loose. All right, that one's loose. Oh, this one is kind of stripped out. Lots of up and down off of this machine today. It's starting to wear me out. I thought I was going to be out here a long time ago. Nope. Stripped. I'd say for now, that's enough messing around. All right, we're live. Got my knee here. Got my starting fluid. Should be hot. Get my face out of the exhaust. All right, good news and bad news. The good news is I am definitely pumping. The bad news is I called it. I didn't put my filter on correctly and I'm pouring fuel, but that's great. That means I'm pumping fuel. I just need to figure out my levers, what is fuel on, fuel off, and I should be good to go. One step closer, come on. All right, I think I got this right and hope that seals. If not, I'll try again. Now that I verified that we have fuel, I filled up some more. Only thing to do is keep turning this thing over and hope my battery doesn't die. Again. Come on, baby. Oh man, what a relief. She's a runner. Ugh. All right, the only thing that I haven't quite figured out, if you saw what I did, I had this bungee cord sitting on my throttle control and it was pulled like it was when I found the machine. That was, oh, I got stuff everywhere. So I threw the bungee cord back on to start. Then I was noticing that it still wasn't running after, you know, the ether for a while. So I threw this off and that was throttle wide open. So now I understand what's throttle up, throttle down. I want to see if I can get this in a sweet spot where it'll just idle. And I don't know if it has anything to do, I feel like this is my emergency shut off here. So this is definitely my idle. I need to find a way without using my cable here because it's seized up. Find a way to just get this at a healthy spot. Thinking if I just loosen this up. Let's see. It still wants to grab when I started. It still wants to throw this open, so I don't really have a great way of doing that. But let me try a couple more times, see if I can't get this in a sweet spot. Well, no, that's definitely my throttle because it's running the rack and this isn't. Stepped on the top of the radiator to push the shroud down on the fan. Oh, I'm spewing fuel out of my return line. See it? That is a success. Hard fought battle, but a success. Let's shut her down. Here's my fuel leak going on there. That is definitely a mess. Man, that feels good to see this thing running. All right, we did it. We got her running. Yeah, it's funny, I didn't realize all those times that I was stepping over the radiator to get back and forth, I was stepping on the radiator and it was pushing the fan shroud down. So I noticed that early on. I'm like, man, I think the fan's hitting the shroud. Dumb. Well, there you have it. She's a runner. I am currently full of diesel. After I realized that the return line was leaking, I actually looked and my inlet line was leaking right at the fitting. So the only way to get it to stop leaking without losing all my fuel was to rip it off, cut it shorter, and stub it back in, and boy, did it soak me. First on the list for next time we're here, run new fuel lines. But hey, let's talk about that win. I am tired, relieved, ready to go home. This thing fought me to the very end. That is for certain, but we got it. We got a runner, and I am looking forward to the next time we come out here. Our goal is going to be to get this fully functional from the tracks all the way to the bucket, seeing if we can get the hydraulics going. But we got a job ahead of us because all of these lines need to be replaced. I haven't figured out how I want to do this yet. Maybe you guys can weigh in the comments for me, but what I'm thinking is take the ones that are obviously blown out, like that one that runs my stick. If you could tell, that thing is completely blown out, most likely letting water into the system. The one with the hole in it that had all the rags over it. My plan is to replace all of those first, because if you know anything about hydraulic lines, you know that they are expensive. All in all though, I'm gonna call this a win. I'm gonna clean up here. I got a lot to clean up and carry back to the truck before I get on the road. So I'm gonna close this one out here. I appreciate all you that followed along. If you enjoyed the video, please do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, like the video. If you're on a mobile app and you wanna press the hype button to push this along in the algorithm, all of that would be extremely appreciated. If you wanna follow me outside of YouTube, I post on Instagram, Facebook, the Tiki-Talkies. But with that, I'm gonna bring this one to a close. I'll see you all back here for the next one. And always remember, don't be afraid to grab that wrench and get after it yourself. We'll see you next time.